The following day dawned with a tense calm over the Xylarian Empire. Ethan could feel it as he stepped out onto the palace balcony and unusual stillness in the air. A quiet anticipation that set his nerves on edge. Lyra awaited him, hovering effortlessly above the crystalline floor. Her expression was serious now, far removed from the playful curiosity he had seen before. Human, she said, her voice steady. Today you will face a test unlike any other. A threat has arisen, one that may impact not just Xylaria, but the surrounding systems. You will need to demonstrate courage, intelligence, and adaptability beyond anything you have shown before. Ethan's stomach tightened. He had faced simulations and puzzles, but this sounded real. What kind of threat? He asked, his voice firm despite the unease rising in him. Lyra pointed toward a massive holographic map that lit up the palace chamber. A distant star system was displaying erratic energy readings, sending shock waves across nearby colonies. Communications had been disrupted, and preliminary scans suggested that a rogue faction of aliens, intended to seize control of vital trade routes. Humans often thrive in chaos, Lyra said, her tone almost approving. Let us see if your species truly rises to the occasion when stakes are high. Ethan took a deep breath, recalling human history. Humanity had faced wars, disasters, and impossible odds, yet they had always adapted, learned, and survived. He felt the same determination now. Then let's begin, Princess. We don't have a moment to waste. The simulation, or perhaps it was reality, shifted rapidly. A holographic display showed multiple colonies under threat. Energy surges blinked in red, and a network of trade routes flickered in instability. Ethan immediately began analyzing patterns, looking for ways to stabilize communication channels and resource distribution. Lyra and the scientist observed silently, their expressions unreadable. Ethan realized that his success depended not only on intelligence, but also on human ingenuity and quick thinking. He suggested combining Xylarian stabilizers with human improvisation to redirect energy flows, preventing the colonies from collapsing. The systems are fragile, Lyra warned. Any mistake could escalate. How do you plan to manage it? Ethan considered the options. Humans often succeeded by taking calculated risks and trusting their instincts. We'll use phased energy pulses to stabilize the network gradually, he explained. It's unconventional, but humans often solve problems in ways that others cannot predict. The simulation nor crisis responded. Systems stabilized slowly, and colonies regained partial functionality. Ethan's pulse quickened. The process was delicate, requiring constant adjustments. He relied on pattern recognition, intuition, and guidance from Lyra and the scientist, blending human adaptability with Xylarian precision. After several tense moments, the colonies were secure. Lyra floated closer, her eyes shining. Impressive, human. You not only responded to the threat, but you anticipated consequences that others might have overlooked. Your species truly adapts under pressure. Ethan felt a surge of pride. Humans had always relied on flexibility and intuition, and now, that trait had earned recognition from one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. The next phase of the day involved diplomacy. A delegation of rogue alien leaders had appeared at the edge of Xylaria's territory, demanding control over the star system. They communicated in unfamiliar symbols and gestures, and the humans would need to act quickly to prevent escalation. Lyra gestured toward the simulation interface. Negotiate, human. Find a solution that maintains stability and prevents conflict. Use all that you have learned, Ethan observed the alien representatives. Humans often excelled in interpreting behavior, and subtle signal skills honed over millennia of interacting with diverse cultures on Earth. He noticed small changes in posture, timing, and tone, piecing together the intentions behind the gestures. I propose a partnership, he said, addressing the holographic delegates. Access and resources will be shared under monitored agreements. Violations will be addressed transparently, and all parties will benefit equally. Trust is the foundation of cooperation. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. Bold, you appeal to reason and fairness, but you also address the need for trust and accountability. Few aliens attempt such a balanced approach. The simulation showed positive responses. Tensions eased, and the rogue faction withdrew, acknowledging the fairness of Ethan's proposal. The colonies and trade routes remained stable. Lyra nodded approvingly. You humans are remarkable, she said softly. You act decisively, yet honorably. You combine courage, intelligence, and empathy in a way that surprises even the most advanced civilizations. Ethan smiled, his heart swelling. Humans had long been underestimated, often dismissed as primitive or reckless. Yet in this alien world, his species' traits creativity, courage, honesty, and adaptability had proved invaluable. The scientist stepped forward, her voice calm but serious. Your actions today demonstrate more than skill. You show insight, understanding, and foresight. Few species can anticipate outcomes and mediate effectively under such pressure. Humans have a unique combination of qualities that we rarely observe elsewhere. Lyra floated beside Ethan, her gaze softening. I underestimated your kind, human. You are clever, brave, and honest. Perhaps humanity has more to offer the galaxy than I realized. Ethan felt a deep sense of pride. Humans had always faced extraordinary challenges, from surviving natural disasters on Earth to exploring the stars. Today, those qualities, adaptability, courage, and ingenuity, had earned recognition and respect. As the twin suns began to set, Ethan and Lyra walked through the palace gardens. The soft glow of crystalline plants reflected across the fountains, creating an almost magical atmosphere. Lyra spoke quietly, her voice thoughtful. You have proven your species can adapt, respond, and thrive even in situations beyond their understanding. This is rare, human. Most civilizations rely solely on strength or technology. Humans combine both courage and intuition, creating solutions that others cannot predict. Ethan nodded. We survive because we learn, we adapt, and we trust our instincts. Challenges make us stronger, and we face them even when the odds seem impossible. Perhaps that is why humanity endures. Lyra paused beside a fountain, her gaze fixed on him. And you, human, have demonstrated these qualities in abundance. You act not only with skill but with integrity. Few would earn the respect of Xylarian leaders so quickly. Ethan felt a quiet warmth in his chest. It was more than pride, it was the realization that humans were capable of more than he had ever imagined. They were clever, adaptable, and courageous, and in this moment, those traits were recognized by one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Night fell, and the twin moons cast silver light over the crystalline city. Ethan stood on a balcony, reflecting on the day's events. Humans had survived unimaginable challenges on Earth, and now, in a distant alien civilization, they continued to rise to the occasion. Lyra appeared beside him, her expression softer than ever. Tomorrow, human, we will explore your species' capacity for diplomacy on a galactic scale. Today you have impressed me with ingenuity and courage. Tomorrow, we shall see how humans manage influence and responsibility beyond their own world. Ethan nodded, feeling a quiet determination settle in him. Humans had always faced challenges and had always adapted, learned, and survived. Their courage and creativity were unparalleled, even in a galaxy of advanced civilizations. He looked at Xylaria's glowing skyline, reflecting on what lay ahead. Every day was a new challenge, a chance to prove that humanity could rise, adapt, and inspire. And he knew that with honesty, courage, and intelligence, humans could achieve far more than anyone alien or human had ever imagined. Lyra's voice came softly behind him. You are more than a representative of your people, human. You are a symbol of what your species can achieve, clever, brave, and unafraid to face the unknown. Ethan smiled faintly. Then I'll continue to do my best, princess. Humans survive, adapt, and rise to challenges. That's who we are. As he returned to his quarters that night, Ethan felt a quiet sense of pride and purpose. Humans were underestimated, often dismissed, yet they had survived, adapted, and thrived where others might have failed. They were clever, courageous, and creative, and in this alien world, their qualities had earned recognition and respect. Tomorrow, he knew, would bring new challenges. But he also knew that humans were ready. They had always been ready, and they always would be. And for the first time, Ethan felt that humanity's place in the galaxy was not just survival, it was influence, respect, and the chance to inspire even the most advanced civilizations with courage, honesty, and ingenuity. The morning on Xylaria dawned with a gentle glow, painting the palace spires in hues of gold and violet. Ethan stepped onto the balcony of his quarters, taking a deep breath. The previous day's trials had been exhausting, yet exhilarating. He had survived scrutiny, demonstrated ingenuity, and even impressed Princess Lyra with his honesty. Still, he knew the galaxy would not yield its respect so easily. Today promised another test, one that would push him further. As he walked toward the garden pavilion, he noticed Lyra waiting for him. She floated gracefully above the crystalline floor, her robe reflecting the rising sun. There was a subtle smile on her face, one that hinted at challenge and amusement combined. "Good morning, human," she said, her voice soft but commanding. "Are you ready for today's test?" Ethan nodded, trying to hide his nervous excitement. "I am, Princess. Whatever it is, I'll do my best." Lyra's eyes gleamed. "Good. Today is not merely a test of knowledge, but of wit, intuition, and courage. You will encounter situations where quick thinking is essential, and mistakes may carry consequences beyond your understanding. Can you handle that?" Ethan swallowed. Humans had always thrived under pressure, finding solutions in impossible situations. "I'll try my best," he said firmly. "I trust that's all any of us can do." They walked together through the palace corridors, past glowing gardens and crystal fountains. Lyra led him to a large chamber that resembled a command center. Holographic projections of the Xylarian Empire filled the room, displaying colonies, trade routes, and distant star systems. "This," Lyra said, gesturing broadly, "is a simulation. You will face scenarios that test your diplomacy, logic, and adaptability. Observe, respond, and prove that humans are capable of more than mere luck." Ethan's eyes widened. The simulation was complex, displaying multiple layers of data simultaneously. It was daunting. But he had faced overwhelming challenges before. He reminded himself that humans had always risen to the occasion. From the earliest space voyages to interstellar diplomacy, Lyra nodded toward the holographic map. First scenario: a trade dispute between two distant colonies. Each claims ownership of a resource-rich asteroid. You must mediate and propose a solution. Ethan studied the holograms, noticing subtle differences in the colony's reports. He considered the human approach, understanding the motivations, finding compromise, and thinking creatively. "I suggest," he began carefully, "that both colonies share access to the asteroid under a joint management system. Humans often succeed by creating partnerships rather than choosing sides. Transparency and fairness encourage cooperation." Lyra's eyes sparkled. "Interesting. You appeal to reason, yet you also acknowledge emotion. Humans are rare in that way, they blend logic with instinct." The scientist, observing from the side, nodded. "Yes, this is a human trait we find fascinating. Few species combine analytical thinking with empathy. Often, we calculate outcomes without considering trust or loyalty." Ethan smiled faintly. "Humans survive because we learn to balance both. Trust can be more valuable than calculation." The simulation shifted seamlessly into a second scenario. A malfunction in a colony's energy core threatened to destabilize nearby systems. Ethan's heart raced. The problem was technical, and time was limited. He relied on his human creativity, suggesting unconventional ways to redirect energy and stabilize the core. Using both Xylarian technology and improvisation, Lyra observed closely. "You risk failure with unconventional methods. Do you not fear the consequences?" Ethan met her gaze. "Fear exists, Princess, but courage is acting even when fear is present. Humans have always faced unknown dangers and adapted quickly. Risk is part of progress." The simulation responded to his choices. Energy levels stabilized, systems normalized, and the projected colony remained safe. Lyra allowed a small smile, impressed. "Your courage, human, matches your intellect." Few beings would approach challenges so boldly and yet wisely. Ethan felt a thrill of pride. Humans had survived countless dangers on Earth and beyond, and even in an alien civilization. Their traits proved valuable. This was more than a personal victory, it was a testament to humanity itself. The third scenario was more subtle. A cultural negotiation. A delegation of alien species arrived, demanding access to Xylarian resources. Their communication style was unfamiliar, relying on gestures and sounds that Ethan could barely interpret. Lyra gave him no hints. Ethan took a deep breath. Humans had always excelled in observation and intuition. He watched carefully, noting patterns, pauses, and subtle expressions. Gradually, he understood the meaning behind the gestures, using a combination of words, gestures, and calm reasoning. He conveyed a compromise that satisfied both the aliens and the Xylarians. Lyra clapped softly, her eyes shining. Humans are adaptable indeed. Observation and intuition are as strong as intellect in your species. I admit, I underestimated your kind. Ethan laughed quietly. Relieved, I'm glad humans have proven themselves. The scientist stepped forward. This is more than skill. This is insight. Humans do not merely calculate, they anticipate, empathize, and adjust in real time. It is rare. Lyra floated closer to Ethan. Tell me, human, have you always been like this? Bold, clever, fearless in thought and action? Ethan shook his head. Not always, princess. I have learned to adapt, to think quickly, and to trust my instincts. Humans evolve through experience, through challenges, and by learning from mistakes. Perhaps that is why we survive in ways others cannot predict. Lyra studied him silently, her gaze thoughtful. Then she laughed softly, a sound like wind over crystal. You are unusual, human. Few of your kind demonstrate such balance of courage, wisdom, and honesty. I am curious about your species now. The final scenario of the day was a personal challenge. Lyra led Ethan to a chamber where he faced a holographic projection of the very scientist he had admired, now animated and interactive. The projection posed a philosophical question. If a choice benefits one group but harms another, how do you decide? Ethan paused, considering carefully. Humans often face moral dilemmas, and he had learned that honesty and empathy were key. I would seek a solution that minimizes harm while maximizing benefit. If no perfect solution exists, I would communicate openly so that all involved understand the reasoning. Humans value honesty and accountability in decisions. The hologram nodded slowly, then dissolved into light. Lyra's expression was unreadable for a moment. You speak with integrity, courage, insight, and honesty, rare qualities, human. Perhaps your species is capable of more than even you realize. Ethan felt a swell of pride. Humans had always been underestimated by advanced civilizations. Yet here he was, representing his kind, proving that courage, creativity, and honesty could make a difference even among the stars. As the day ended, Lyra escorted him through the palace gardens, where glowing plants reflected the setting suns. You have done well, human. Your species surprises me. You are clever, honest, and adaptable. Perhaps one day, humans will be known throughout the galaxy not for recklessness, but for ingenuity and courage. Ethan smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. I hope so, princess. Humans have always faced challenges. We survive because we learn, adapt, and trust each other. Perhaps that is our strength. Lyra paused beside a crystalline fountain, her gaze softening. It may be, and you, human, are an example of what your kind can achieve. Courage, honesty, and intellect, all in one. For the first time, Ethan felt a quiet sense of triumph. He was not just representing himself but humanity. Humans might be young in the galaxy, but they were clever, adaptable, and capable of surprising even the most advanced species. As night fell, the twin moons rose, casting a silver glow over the crystalline city. Ethan looked out over Xylaria, thinking of the day's challenges and accomplishments. He realized that humans' greatest strength was not merely in strength or technology, but in courage, creativity, and honesty. That combination had allowed his species to survive on Earth and now, perhaps, to gain respect among the stars. Lyra's voice came softly from behind. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, human. But you have proven that your kind can rise to extraordinary situations. You have earned my attention and my curiosity. Ethan nodded, feeling a deep sense of pride and determination. Humans were capable of more than the galaxy expected. They had survived, adapted, and thrived before, and they would continue to do so in ways that would astonish even the most advanced civilizations. He returned to his quarters, gazing at the stars. For the first time, he felt not just like a visitor in this alien world, but like a representative of humanity's spirit, clever, courageous, and unafraid to face the unknown. And he knew that tomorrow, the adventure and the test would continue. The next morning, Ethan woke to the soft glow of Xylaria's twin suns streaming through the translucent walls of the delegation quarters. He sat up, rubbing his eyes. His mind was already racing with anticipation and anxiety. Today, Princess Lyra had promised further scrutiny. Whatever that meant, he knew it would not be ordinary. Humans were adaptable, yes, but aliens were unpredictable. Breakfast was served in a floating tray, hovering gently beside him, and he marveled at the quiet efficiency. A small holographic screen projected the day's schedule. The words were in their native script, but translations appeared instantly in human English. His stomach tightened as he read the first item, Meet the Scientist, Challenge of Wit. Ethan sighed. All right, human, he muttered. You've got this. Just think before speaking this time. The corridors of the palace seemed even more magnificent in the morning light. The crystal walls shimmered like water, and delicate patterns of light danced across the floors. Xylarians floated gracefully, their presence calm yet commanding. Every movement seemed choreographed, yet entirely natural. Ethan felt like a clumsy dancer in a room full of experts. Princess Lyra arrived before him, gliding silently across the hallway. She wore a robe of deep indigo that shimmered like the night sky, adorned with subtle patterns of stars and galaxies. Her eyes, soft yet piercing, studied him carefully. Human, she said, her voice melodic. The scientist is ready. I hope your courage remains, for today is a test of both intellect and honesty. Ethan swallowed, nodding. I'll do my best, Princess. She led him to the pavilion garden once more, where the famous Xylarian scientist stood among crystalline plants that glowed faintly in the morning sun. She smiled as Ethan approached. Human, I hear you admire my work. Will you demonstrate your understanding? Ethan nodded. I'll try. I promise to be honest if I don't know something. Lyra's eyes gleamed with interest. Good. Honesty is the foundation of trust, and trust is the rarest treasure in the galaxy. The scientist began with questions about her research, complex ideas about energy fields, interstellar mapping, and quantum communication. Ethan listened carefully, relying on his human intuition as much as his study. Whenever he wasn't sure, he admitted it openly, explaining how humans approach problems differently. I don't fully understand your method, he said at one point, but from a human perspective, we often combine creativity with trial and error. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we learn quickly from mistakes. Lyra and the scientist exchanged a glance, subtle but noticeable. The scientist raised an eyebrow. Interesting. Humans value adaptability over precision, yet you achieve results. Tell me, how do you decide what is worth risking? Ethan thought for a moment. We try to understand the consequences, but we also trust our instincts. Sometimes, courage is choosing to act even when the odds are unknown. Lyra's gaze softened slightly. Curious. You speak of courage as if it is natural to your kind. Few aliens understand this balance of instinct and reason. Yet humans seem to thrive on it. The morning passed with more questions and discussions. Ethan found himself thinking quickly, learning to combine human ingenuity with Xylarian logic. He answered questions about diplomacy, interstellar history, and even basic science with honesty and wit. Each time, Lyra observed him with growing fascination, sometimes leaning closer to catch his words. Her curiosity like a gentle current around him. By midday, the scientist called for a break. Ethan walked beside Lyra through the garden paths, where crystalline fountains shimmered and soft music seemed to rise naturally from the surroundings. "You are unlike most humans I have met," Lyra said, her voice thoughtful. "Bold, honest, clever. And yet, you speak without fear of judgment. Do you not worry about offending others?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Sometimes I do, Princess. But I've learned that honesty often opens more doors than lies. People and aliens can respect that." Lyra tilted her head, a small smile playing on her lips. "Perhaps. I have been curious about your species for a long time. You survive, adapt, and find solutions even when the situation seems impossible. Your bravery is notable." The compliment made Ethan's chest tighten. He had spent his life striving to prove humanity's worth to the galaxy. Every alien civilization seemed to measure humans against impossible standards. Yet here was Lyra, a princess of one of the most advanced species. Recognizing his value, the afternoon challenge began with a simulated interstellar crisis. A holographic map of the Xylarian Empire appeared, showing multiple colonies and trade routes. A nearby star was exhibiting unusual energy fluctuations, threatening communications and transportation. The scientist and Lyra presented Ethan with the problem: devise a plan to stabilize the star's energy fields using the resources available. Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline. Humans were problem solvers by nature, and this was a test tailor-made for his species. He studied the hologram, noting patterns and anomalies. The scientist suggested potential approaches, but Ethan proposed combining Xylarian technology with human improvisation. "I think if we redirect the energy through the auxiliary channels and use a phase pulse system, it could stabilize the field," he explained. "It's risky, but humans often take calculated risks when speed and ingenuity are required." Lyra's eyes widened slightly. "You risk your reputation and your honor for a theoretical solution?" Bold indeed, Ethan nodded. "Sometimes, Princess, courage is more valuable than caution. Humans survive by taking chances that others would avoid." The scientist observed silently as Ethan's plan was executed in the holographic simulation. Energy fields pulsed and shifted, systems hummed, and the simulated star gradually stabilized. Lyra clapped her hands softly. "Remarkable. You see solutions differently than we do, and yet your approach works. This is most unusual for a human." Ethan breathed a sigh of relief, feeling a mixture of pride and amazement. He had just demonstrated a uniquely human trait, the combination of creativity, courage, and adaptability that even the most advanced aliens found difficult to anticipate. Later, the three walked through the palace corridors, discussing philosophy, culture, and the challenges of interstellar governance. Lyra asked questions that tested his morals and priorities, and Ethan answered honestly, without trying to impress. The scientist occasionally interjected with sharp, analytical observations, which Ethan welcomed, knowing that humans grow by learning from others. As the twin suns began to set, casting a spectrum of colors across the palace walls, Lyra paused at a balcony overlooking the city. "You humans, you surprise me. I expected arrogance or recklessness, yet I see ingenuity and honor. Perhaps your species has more potential than I imagined." Ethan smiled, the weight of pride and relief lifting his shoulders. "Thank you, Princess. I hope humans and Xylarians can learn from each other. We have strengths and weaknesses, but together, maybe we can do more than either of us imagine." Lyra regarded him thoughtfully, then nodded. "Perhaps. But remember, human, this is only the beginning. Your words yesterday started a conversation. Your actions today have continued it. Tomorrow, we shall see if your honesty and courage can withstand further scrutiny." Ethan felt a thrill run through him. Every step of this journey was teaching him not only about aliens, but about humans, their resilience, humor, and courage. He realized that humans' greatest strength was not technology, or size, or speed, but the ability to adapt, to think, and to connect, even across galaxies. As night fell over the crystalline city, Ethan returned to his quarters, reflecting on the day's events. The challenges had been real, but humans thrived on challenges. He had survived scrutiny, demonstrated his value, and even impressed an alien princess. And yet, he knew tomorrow would bring new tests, new questions, and perhaps new surprises. He sat by the window, watching the stars rise over Xylaria, shimmering in colors unfamiliar to Earth. A thought came to him: humans might be young in the galaxy, but they had something rare: curiosity, courage, and a refusal to be limited by expectation. Today had proven it. Tomorrow would be another chance to show it again. And as he closed his eyes that night, Ethan felt a quiet determination settle in his chest. Humans were capable of more than the galaxy expected. They had survived, adapted, and thrived before, and they would continue to do so, in ways that would astonish even the most advanced alien civilizations. Ethan felt a nervous excitement as the shuttle descended toward the capital of the Xylarian Empire. He had dreamed of visiting other worlds ever since he was a child, reading about humanity's first steps into interstellar diplomacy. Now, he was not just a visitor, he was part of the human delegation invited to the royal palace. The enormity of it all weighed on him, but he reminded himself that humans had always been able to adapt to the most unusual circumstances. The shuttle doors opened with a hiss, and Ethan stepped onto the landing platform. The air shimmered faintly, as if infused with a soft energy that made every color brighter, every shape clearer. Towering crystalline buildings surrounded him, reflecting light in unexpected ways. Xylarians moved with grace, their iridescent skin catching the sun in flashes of gold, blue, and violet. Ethan felt both out of place and fascinated. "Stay calm, Ethan," he muttered under his breath. "Just be yourself. You've got this." He had barely taken 2 steps when a voice echoed behind him. "Welcome to Xylaria, human." He turned and saw her, Princess Lyra. She floated slightly above the ground, as if gravity were merely a suggestion. Her eyes bright and curious. Her skin gleamed with a soft lavender hue, and her presence demanded attention without trying. Ethan swallowed hard. She was breathtaking, the kind of beauty that made one pause without realizing it. "You age." "Thank you, Princess," Ethan said, bowing awkwardly. He felt his cheeks warm. "I mean, it's an honor." Lyra raised a hand gracefully. "No need for formalities yet. You are still learning our ways." Her voice was melodic, a sound that seemed to resonate with the colors around them. "Your people are curious." "That is clear," Ethan nodded, nervously glancing at the delegation behind him. They all tried to look composed, but even they seemed awed by the elegance of the palace and the princess herself. The tour began. Crystal corridors opened into vast halls where floating panels displayed historical records and holographic projections of Xylarian scientists, leaders, and explorers. Ethan was drawn to one hologram in particular, a female scientist, her brilliance radiating from her expression, her presence almost tangible even in light form. "Who is she?" Ethan asked, unable to keep his awe out of his voice. "She is one of our greatest minds," a guide replied. "Her discoveries helped Xylaria advance beyond the Milky Way systems." Ethan nodded, studying the hologram. "She was beautiful, yes, but there was more to her: intelligence, confidence, and a kindness that shone through even the projection." Without thinking, Ethan muttered, "She's hotter than my ex." The words left his mouth before he could stop them. He froze immediately, realizing what he had said. Princess Lyra had stopped beside him, her eyes, wide and shimmering, fixed on him. She stepped closer, and Ethan felt an unexpected pressure, as if the space around him had shifted. "You said what?" Her voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable edge of demand. "Explain yourself, human." Ethan's mind raced. He had never expected to be questioned by an alien princess, especially not over a comment that had flown out carelessly. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. I didn't mean. It's just," he stammered. Lyra's eyes studied him intently. She was not angry in the way humans were used to, but her curiosity was sharp, almost intimidating. Ethan realized that on Xylaria, words carried weight. A careless comment could be interpreted as challenge, insult, or intrigue. He had just delivered all 3 at once. "I was referring to the hologram," Ethan managed finally. "I admire her brilliance and..." I guess I was trying to compare, humorously, to something from my own world. It was not meant to offend you. Lyra tilted her head, considering him. She floated around him in a slow circle, her gaze never leaving his face. Humor, you say? You humans have a peculiar way of speaking. You risk offense in the attempt to amuse. Yes, ma'am, Ethan said quickly. I'm still learning your ways. There was a moment of silence. Then Lyra laughed softly, a sound like wind chimes through crystal. You are bold, human. Few dare speak such words in my presence. I am curious. Are you always this frank? Ethan shook his head, relieved that she seemed less angry and more intrigued. Not always, princess. I usually think before I speak, today. Not so much, curious, she murmured, almost to herself. I believe we should test this frankness of yours. Humans are clever, yes? Ethan raised an eyebrow. I'd like to think so. Lyra extended a hand. Come, you will meet the subject of your admiration. See if your words hold truth when faced with reality. Ethan's stomach flipped. Was she serious? He had just insulted an entire culture's sense of propriety, and now he was being invited to meet a legendary figure? Yet he nodded, understanding that this was also a rare chance. Humans thrived on challenge and opportunity, and he would not shrink away now. The hallway opened into a garden unlike any Ethan had ever seen. Crystalline trees shimmered with soft light, and flowers glowed faintly in colors he had no names for. The air smelled sweet, but unlike any earth fragrance. Lyra floated ahead of him, graceful and silent, leading him to a pavilion where a woman awaited. The scientist rose to greet them. Her hair shimmered like liquid silver, and her eyes held a depth that spoke of wisdom earned over decades. Ethan swallowed, remembering his words. He had admired her from afar, and now he was standing before her, awkward, nervous, but determined to show respect. Human, she said, her voice calm but authoritative. I hear you have spoken of me. Yes, Ethan said, bowing slightly. I admire your work. Your discoveries are remarkable. I did not mean any offense. I was simply speaking as humans often do, with humor. The scientist studied him, then smiled slightly. It was not a laugh or mockery, but a recognition of honesty. Humans are strange creatures. You speak without fully measuring, yet you also display courage in admitting mistakes. That is intriguing. Ethan felt a flicker of hope. Thank you, ma'am. I hope to learn from you. Lyra, standing beside the scientist, gave a small nod. You see, human honesty is not always a weakness. On Xylaria, we value precision and thought, but there is power in courage and frankness. Perhaps your species has much to teach us, after all. Ethan blinked. For a moment, he felt the weight of humanity on his shoulders, the expectation to represent his world, to show that humans could match the wonders of alien civilizations. And yet, standing there, he also realized that he had something unique to offer: humor, curiosity, and the ability to connect across worlds. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of introductions and polite conversation. Ethan found himself learning about Xylarian culture, their achievements, and their expectations of diplomacy. Lyra watched him with keen interest, occasionally asking him questions that tested both his knowledge and his ability to think on his feet. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the crystalline city, Ethan felt a strange sense of triumph. He had survived the first test of frankness with an alien princess and had made a small, but meaningful, connection. Humans were not the strongest or the most advanced species in the galaxy, but they had courage, adaptability, and an irrepressible curiosity. And today, that was enough. Lyra finally spoke, her voice soft but firm. Tomorrow, we will see if your words can endure further scrutiny. Be ready, human. Curiosity and courage may take you far, but only honesty will carry you the rest of the way. Ethan nodded, trying not to let his excitement show too much. He had survived his first encounter, but he knew the real challenge was just beginning. As he walked back to the delegation quarters, he reflected on the day's events. Humans had always faced challenges, sometimes against overwhelming odds, yet they adapted. They learned, and they found strength in unexpected places. He smiled to himself. Maybe, just maybe, humans were capable of more than he had ever imagined. And one thing was certain. He would never again underestimate an alien princess with a keen mind and a curious gaze.